You're listening to episode 120 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness researchers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Filmmaker Rob Beemer joins us to speak about the film The Mindfulness Movement. If you are listening to this podcast and find value and insights from what is shared here, know that this is made available from your generosity and the generosity of others like you. I want to thank those of you who are making monthly donations to keep this podcast going, and if you're not yet, please take a moment, go to presentmomentmindfulness.com and click on Make a Donation. One-time or especially monthly donations show you value this work, which can't happen without you. Thank you for your help, your support, and your kind generosity. One of the interesting things about social movements is how they grow. Not just the historical conditions that lead to them getting started, but the people involved and the impact the movement has. Contemporary secular mindfulness is experiencing rapid growth, and today's guests speak about what it's like to document that progression from the germination of a program at the University of Massachusetts to worldwide phenomenon. Rob Beemer is an Emmy-nominated and award-winning television and film documentary producer, director, and writer. He has been making documentaries for more than 25 years, including several feature-length documentaries and more than 200 hours of network and cable TV programming in a wide variety of documentary and reality genres. He graduated from UCLA with a BA in psychology and is currently represented by the Agency for the Performing Arts. Rob has had many memorable experiences in his documentary career, such as hovering in a helicopter inside the crater of Mount St. Helens, landing on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Persian Gulf during the Iraq War, and interviewing a wide variety of interesting people such as Nobel Prize-winning scientists, best-selling authors, UFC champions, U.S. Armed Forces members in Iraq, Kuwait, and Alaska, World War I and World War II veterans, and former CIA and FBI agents, as well as filming in most of America's 50 states and many foreign countries. In addition, Rob has worked with celebrities such as Morgan Freeman, George C. Scott, Charlton Heston, Dennis Quaid, Kenny Rogers, and Gerald McRaney. Our guest today is Rob Beemer. Rob, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so let's just dive right in. Have you tell us a bit about your background?
Sure. Well, I'm a documentary filmmaker. I've been doing that for more than 25 years now. And I both produce, direct, write. In the documentary world, you have to be ready to do everything. And for many years was making a lot of programs for History Channel, Discovery, Nat Geo, Science Channel, and really enjoyed that, but now transitioning to some more independent projects, really passion projects, and certainly mindfulness is one of my passions. I've been practicing for over 10 years now. And so I really wanted to put those two things together, my passion for mindfulness and my documentary filmmaking skills, so that I could, hopefully help introduce more people to mindfulness and help grow the movement.
So, Rob, say a little bit more about this. How did you first come to mindfulness?
Well, I was interested in Buddhism and Hinduism starting in teenage years, but really it was when I was working a busy career, had small children, and was just not enough sleep, and was getting too angry, and said, I need some help. And at a supermarket, I saw a magazine and started getting back more into some Buddhism, but then found that really, as I saw articles about the secular form of mindfulness, that's really just kind of what resonated with me more in my particular case. And as I saw the science behind it, very encouraging results so far, although it's still, continuing to build, it's still a young field. But I was very impressed by the initial findings and just felt like that secular version of mindfulness was really a helpful tool for me.
So it's interesting. You've had a documentary film background is what you've been doing for a long time, and you have a personal practice as well. And have, as you mentioned, just started doing some more projects that you're personally caring about. And so I'm wondering what that initial concept for you looked like as you thought about, I had a film on mindfulness. What was that like? How did that grow?
Well, similar to other documentaries, a lot of times you start by identifying, as you're doing research, who some of the main experts are, trying to get in touch with them, talking to them, getting ideas through them of what they feel is important to touch on if I were to do a documentary about that. And but also I had some things in mind myself in terms of really wanting to show mindfulness being used throughout society and by a wide range of people. So I always kind of envisioned that, especially with something kind of esoteric as mindfulness, how do we make this more active? And so I really wanted to focus on, let's show mindfulness being put into action in a lot of different settings by a lot of different people, making sure to include diversity, because I think sometimes, in the mindfulness world, people start to think, oh, well, that's just something for affluent white people. And it's really not true. And so I really wanted to show mindfulness being used in a lot of different settings. And even when I was with some of the well-known experts, still capturing them, whether they were actively teaching a class or giving a talk or something where they were, doing something active as well.
Right. So this is an interview-based film, and in the preview that I've seen, you have a number of teachers in vivo in the classroom. You have them off that during interview sessions themselves. You can mention just a few of the guests and maybe the different contexts in which they're from.
Sure. Well, I've been thrilled to have been able to include what I feel like are, some of the top mindfulness experts in North America. So people like John Kabat-Zinn and Sharon Salzberg, George Mumford, Daniel Goleman, Richard Davidson, Chade Ming Tan. So, so many great people. And each person really had their own unique take on what they felt was important. Obviously someone like Richard Davidson is really going to be able to cover the science, neuroscience, and along with Daniel Goleman, who's, worked with Richard on a book recently, but also he has his journalistic side of, all the articles he's written. Sharon Salzberg, someone who has, been there from the very beginning of mindfulness in the West. Um, and George Mumford, of course, bringing the sports angle, but also he's worked with many different groups too. I love, as he likes to say, he works from Yale to jail, everyone in between. Yeah, so it was really fun being able to get all of these top experts, and then the other side of it is it was also great to be able to include so many people from different walks of life. So, police officers, school children, prisoners, people at Fortune 500 companies where they have a mindfulness program. So, that was important to me to really be able to show all the different places where mindfulness is able to help people. And because it's just a simple practice, now that we have some understanding of how our brains work, then we know that it's a simple practice that can help anyone.
Yeah. So in the making of this film, which has been going on for a while, and I imagine there was a tremendous amount of just coordinating, getting to speak to so many people. What were some of the things that you learned or may have been surprising for you during this adventure?
I think one thing is, even with these top experts, everyone starts somewhere. They weren't born mindfulness experts, right? Or at some point they had to teach their first class. And so I really enjoyed hearing the personal stories. And one thing that's important that I'm making sure to include in the film is the personal side of things. So this isn't just going to be information. You don't want to just throw information at people and then after a while that just gets tuned out. It's too much. So it was important to include the personal stories about whether it's the experts or everyday people. Some examples are Jewel, the singer-songwriter. She's got an amazing life story, a lot of hardships. She was left her house at age 15. She was homeless at age 18. And she had no idea what mindfulness was, but she kind of discovered some techniques on her own that later she realized, oh, this is mindfulness. But in the moment, it was just a survival mechanism for her. Or, someone like Deepak Chopra, hearing how he first came, made the transition from being a medical doctor to wanting to approach more of a whole body healing type of philosophy. And so how he moved from one world to another. So yeah, it's just, really exciting to hear all these different personal stories and realize, the journey that each person has taken, whether they're an average everyday person or, world-renowned expert.
Yeah. So I know that you're still in the midst of editing, and we'll come back to that in just a moment, but I'm wondering if there are a few favorite moments from the film that you expect will be showing up in the final print that you might be able to share with us.
Right. Well, one thing that was very inspiring was to see the work of the Holistic Life Foundation people in Baltimore. They work with a number of Baltimore public schools there, especially in low-income areas. And this was started by two brothers and a college friend of theirs. And they've done some amazing work there, and now they're helping thousands of kids in Baltimore. And so going and seeing them and talking to the kids, we went to an elementary school and a high school in Baltimore where the Holistic Life Foundation has some great programs. And just, hearing from the kids and seeing the programs that they have available and the mindful moment rooms where at any point during the day, if they're having difficulty, they can go and just be able to refocus, calm down if they're upset about something and refocus and get back to class. Or teachers can refer kids if they see, they need some help right now. And it was amazing to hear, also from the principals, how big of an impact that was making for them. So many fewer visits to the principal's office for the kids because they could go to the mindful moment room and just really get what they needed in terms of being able to calm down and refocus and go back ready to learn, which obviously helps the learning environment. And even the high school kids, obviously high school kids are going to want to, be too cool for everything. It was great to see that they really had an appreciation for this.
Yeah. So what are you hoping people who see the film when it does become available, what are you hoping that they get out of seeing this?
I think a couple things. So one thing I hope everyone gets out of it is just how simple this practice can be and how it can help anyone in any life situation. Now, it does take commitment, right? It's kind of like diet and exercise, as many people have said. So it's simple, but you have to do it, right? But I want people to understand it's simple and anyone can do it. And then also, just make that connection by showing a lot of different people. I think anyone who watches it is going to be able to identify with someone within the film and say, oh yeah, I really connect to that person. That sounds like my story, or that sounds like the particular aspect that will really work for me to help me either continue a practice or to start a practice. Because that's one of the other challenging but important things is how do you make something that appeals both to people that have been practicing mindfulness for a long time and people who know nothing about it. And so I think, throughout the film, by hearing a lot of different personal stories and by exposing people to a lot of different ways to practice mindfulness and different settings, that I think whether they're a novice or a longtime practitioner and whatever walk of life they're from, I think everyone will find something to connect to and something that can help them. And that's really the goal is, I feel that this is an important skill. And so I just hope that everyone who watches will gain something from it and help, maybe encourage someone else to start practicing mindfulness if they found something helpful.
So as you mentioned, you're editing right now. Maybe you can say a bit more about where you are in this process as of this recording.
Sure. Yeah. And so we've done all of our filming all across North America, and we did a few things in Canada. We went to the Muse people, the Muse headband, where they're using technology in a positive way. Technology can be so distracting for all of us.
Interestingly, I saw that you had in that preview your interview with Ariel Garten, who was very kindly sent me, and for those of you who can't see, we're on screen right now. I'm holding up my Muse for Rob to see, and he's holding up his as well.
Yeah, so that was great to be able to see, how technology can be helpful instead of distracting, and went to the offices of the Mindful magazine people in Nova Scotia and their mindful.org website. And they've done such a great job of getting the word out. So yeah, we're done with that filming and then going through the editing process and continuing the fundraising process as we go through the editing process. That's one of the big challenges of doing the independent passion projects is that, there's the constant funding challenge along the way. And so we've been happy with the response that we've been getting from that and moving along. But certainly if anyone would like to help, we have a website, themindfulnessmovement.com, and there's donate buttons on there, and people will, depending on different donation levels, have their names on the website or even in the film. So we've got about almost half of the film edited. But there's a number of stages. It's as you edit, it's not perfect right from that first pass. Just like writing something, you go through multiple drafts. And so as we piece this together, We're doing one kind of rough version of everything, and then we'll take a step back and look at it and say, okay, where do we need to make some adjustments? And so we'll go through that process for a few more months, and hopefully by the end of the year have something finished and ready to get out to the world next year.
So what's the plan once you're finished with all the editing and you're ready to go? What's next?
We want to get this out to the world in a number of ways. So initially we would have a theatrical release, and we'll try to get this in as many theaters across the country and hopefully in Canada too. And then we would move on to, all the other ways that people consume content these days, whether it's downloads or DVD or iTunes, and hopefully Amazon or Netflix, and then also TV. So we just want to, make sure as many people as possible see this, as well as have some free screenings and low income areas to make sure that, everyone gets the chance to see this. So that's where we are. We just hope as many people as possible get to take a look, and hopefully it helps them, inspires them, and helps bring new people into the movement.
Well, for those who are listening, I'll have a link to the website, themindfulnessmovement.com. And if you'd like to make a donation or just visit the site and watch the preview and see what this is like, I think you'll really like what you see. Our guest today, Rob Beemer. Rob, thanks so much for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to hear more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About Podcast Music page. Sound editing, mixing, and mastering provided by the generosity of Anthony Dominello of StructureFromSound.com. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.